Hello guys, welcome to this session. Wow, we have finished 8 days of the crash course. This is the 8th day, in fact. We have done hundreds of questions and we are now at the end of American literature. So as usual, I have a recap for you here, and then we will go into a discussion of today's topic. Are you ready for the recap? I hope you have been studying. I hope there are no doubts. I hope you have been doing your own research. Yes. So today we have recap from this question. Which of the following is predominantly the theme of Crazy Jane poems? Which of the following is the theme of Crazy Jane poems? Bolo. The paradoxes of pretension and reality. I'm fine, Kavita. The deprivation of poverty, the goodness of simple village folk, the hypocrisies of urban life. Even though it might look like 2 is also the theme, it is A, the paradoxes of pretension and reality. Dear friends, listen to me. Crazy Jane is a very poor, eccentric, mad woman created by W.W.I. Yeats. It was modeled on a real woman, and W.W.I. Yeats has written 7 Crazy Jane poems. There are altogether 7 Crazy Jane poems that W.W.I. Yeats has written. In the Crazy Jane poems, he is talking about what is the reality of people and what is the pretension of the society. Even though hypocrisies is also there, goodness of simple folk is also there, deprivation of poverty is also there. The best answer that encompasses everything is paradoxes of pretension and reality. Now listen to me, guys. In at least 2 of the poems, Crazy Jane is talking to a bishop. In at least 2 of the poems, Crazy Jane is talking to a bishop. There are 7 poems altogether. Did you get that? Just for 1 hour, forget cricket and everything and please listen to me. Next. Oh, come not near me, sir, I shall defile you. I that am of your blood was taken from you, or your better health. This speech made by a dying woman to her father in a Jacobean play was echoed in T.S. Eliot's Gerontian. Which is the play? Oh, come not near me, sir. This is from a Jacobean play. A dying woman is speaking to her father. The lines of this dying woman are echoed in T.S. Eliot's Gerontian. Is it Thomas Middleton's Women Beware Women, or Middleton and Rowley's Changeling? Is it Middleton a game at chess, or The White Devil? It is indeed The Changeling by Middleton and Rowley. The Changeling by Middleton and Rowley. Sorry. In The Changeling by Middleton and Rowley, Beatrice Joanna is in love with Alcimiro, but she is betrothed to Alonso, and she is loved by De Flores. Beatrice Joanna is a wonderful woman who is a very lovable woman, but she falls from that position at the end of the play. She uses De Flores to kill Alonso. And this leads to her own death at the end. I will do AP set question paper discussion tomorrow or day after. I won't be doing it as part of the crash course. I will do it separately. Okay. So, Women Beware Women is a tragedy by Middleton that he has written by himself. I have not seen the question paper till now, that is why. A Game at Chess is a comedy by Middleton. The White Devil is a tragedy by Webster. The changeling of the title refers to Beatrice Joanna herself changing, and also it refers to the subplot where a man is disguising as an idiot. Did you understand, everyone? Beatrice Joanna, 3 men, and she uses one of them to murder another. This leads to her downfall. The Changeling by Middleton and Rowley. The dying words of the protagonist is echoed in T.S. Eliot's Gerontion. Now guys, the children's story, The Iron Man, is written by UPHESE का भी है, एक plan है. The children's story, The Iron Man, is written by, is it T.S. Eliot, Robert Southey, Nathaniel Hawthorne, or Ted Hughes? T.S. Eliot, Robert Southey, Nathaniel Hawthorne, or Ted Hughes? It is Ted Hughes. That is correct. It is written by Ted Hughes. Ted Hughes has written children's books, including The Iron Man. Okay, guys? Then, who of the following did not belong to the Imagist group? Who of the following did not belong to the Imagist group? For comforting his children, yes. The Iron Man was written to comfort his own children, yes. The Imagist group was founded in the early 20th century. And you know probably that they met at the University of Pennsylvania. Exactly. F.S. Flint, John Gould Fletcher were both part of Imagism. Hilda Doolittle was a main figure. It is Geoffrey Hill. That is right, guys. Geoffrey Hill is a later poet. Ezra Pound, Amy Lovell, Richard Aldington, Hilda Doolittle, F.S. Flint, John Gould Fletcher, William Carlos Williams, they were all part of the Imagist group. Imagism flourished in the early 20th century, and which is the first anthology of the images? Please tell me, everyone, which is the first anthology of the images? Des Imagistus. The first collection of poems is Ripostus. Imagism flourished in connection with these writers at the University of Pennsylvania. And they used images, or how did Ezra Pound define an image? An intellectual and emotional complex in an instant of time. An intellectual and emotional complex in an instant of time. He laid out the 3 principles of Imagism in the book, in the essay, the retrospect, in the book, A Retrospect. There were actually, it was a collection of essays, a retrospect. Okay. Who among the images wrote War Trilogy? War Trilogy. Did I mark the answer? Yeah. Who among the images wrote War Trilogy? Is it Amy Lowell or Hilda Doolittle or Ezra Pound or Richard Aldington? Richard Aldington was a writer of war. I said I will discuss it tomorrow. I did not get the question paper yet. I will discuss it tomorrow or day after as soon as I get the question paper. That is what I said about AP set. Thank you guys. It is Hilda Doolittle or HD who wrote War Trilogy. Hilda Doolittle's trilogy is famous. Covering the Walls Do Not Fall, Tribute to the Angels. These are part of her trilogy. Covering the Walls Do Not Fall, Tribute to the Angels, and The Flowering of the Rod. Hilda Doolittle's trilogy it is. Please remember, guys. Richard Aldington was a husband. Which of the First World War poets wrote the collection The Old Huntsman and Other Poems? Which of the First World War poets wrote the collection The Old Huntsman and Other Poems? It is Siegfried Sassoon. Siegfried Sassoon was also an important war writer. Siegfried's Journey is a book about his friendships, etc. Siegfried Sassoon. Siegfried's Journey is a book of memoirs about his friends, etc. Okay? Right, guys. Then, next question. Are you ready? Robert Conquest's anthology of poems called New Lines was a reaction against dash. Robert Conquest's anthology of poems called New Lines was a reaction against dash. Robert Conquest wrote New Lines. What was it a reaction against? It was published in the 1950s at the time of movement poetry. Listen, everybody. In the 1930s, there were the poets of the 30s. In the 1940s, there was the New Apocalypse movement. Then, in the 1950s, came the movement poets. Robert Conquest's anthology called New Lines supported the movement poets, and they were against the New Apocalypse movement. Robert Conquest's New Lines supported the movement poets, and they were against New Apocalypse movement. It was against. Will you remember? Thank you so much for telling the correct answers. Which of the following is not a poem by Philip Larkin? Which of the following is not a poem by Philip Larkin? And Arundel tomb, I remember, obeyed my sad captain. These are the options. Bolo, I am waiting. My sad captain is by Tom Gunn. He was also a movement poet. And Arundel tomb, I remember, and obeyed are poems by Philip Larkin. They always ask questions from Philip Larkin, W.H. Auden, etc. Are you liking the video, guys? Will you please like the video? And also, if possible, share it with your friends. Okay, next one. The third act of Man and Superman called Don Juan in Hell. Listen to me, guys. Bernard Shaw wrote Man and Superman. George Bernard Shaw wrote Man and Superman. And it has a third act which is called Don Juan in Hell. What is happening in that third act? It is based on a dash, a dream, a true story, a church sermon, a folklore. Don Juan in Hell is based on a surrealistic dream that Jack Tanner has. Don Juan in Hell is based on a surrealistic dream that Jack Tanner has. Will you remember? It is very important. Virginia Woolf's novel The Years was originally titled, is it the Earwickers, the Compsons, the Purgeters, or the Tyrons? It is almost like asking, what is the name of the family that is depicted in The Years? Today, many people are less in the video. That is probably because it's a Sunday. Tell me, The Years was originally titled The Purgeters. In which novel, Purgeters are the family depicted in The Years. In which novel do you have the Earwicker family, guys? The Earwickers are in Finnegan's Wake. The Earwickers in James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake. Okay. The Compsons are in Faulkner's The Sound and the Fury. The Sound and the Fury is by William Faulkner. It depicts the Compson family. The Purgeters are in The Years. And the Tyron family is in Eugene O'Neill's Long Day's Journey into Night. When you cross-connect like this, it is easier to remember. Okay, guys. You should cross-connect and study like this. That's right. Okay. So, shall I move on? Are you ready? In Virginia Woolf's novel Between the Acts, did you notice that I am including some of the earlier questions in a different way, every day, so that you will get it crystal clear. Virginia Woolf's last novel published in her lifetime is called Between the Acts. Between the Acts has a character reading a book entitled The Outline of History. There is a character reading a book called Outline of History. Who is reading it here? Virginia Woolf's novel Between the Acts has one character reading a book entitled The Outline of History. Tell me, which is the book? Which is the character? I told you this the other day. It is Lucy Swithin. Lucy Swithin is reading this book, I have told you. It was there in the question. This is why I am asking it again, so that you don't forget. All these are characters from Between the Acts, of course. All these are characters from Between the Acts. Now you will remember, when we do repeatedly like this, you will remember. I don't want you to just get confused. I will make sure you remember. We will do all the questions again and again. Don't worry at all. All right, guys. What is the name of the heroine in D.H. Lawrence's The White Peacock? Is it Kate, Letty, Harriet, or Kitty? Bolo? D.H. Lawrence's debut novel it is. The White Peacock is D.H. Lawrence's debut novel. What is the name of the protagonist? I will give you a clue. I will give you a clue. The original title of the White Peacock was Laetitia. The original title of the White Peacock was Laetitia, and in short, the character is called Letty. The original title of White Peacock was her real name. Okay, Kate is the widow in The Plumed Serpent. Harriet is in Kangaroo. Kitty, I just made it up. Kitty Warren in Mrs. Warren's Profession. Right. Now, who of the following wrote a novel in the manner of the fictional diary of Oscar Wilde? This is a biographer. He wrote many novels based on other works. Intertextual novels, he wrote many. Who among the following wrote a novel in the manner of the fictional diary of Oscar Wilde? I am asking you from previous questions also. It is Peter Ackroyd. Peter Ackroyd's first book is The Great Fire of London, where he talks about the filming of the novel Little Dorrit. The Last Testament of Oscar Wilde, Hawksmoor, Chatterton. These are all books by Peter Ackroyd. Plumed Serpent is by D.H. Lawrence. Kangaroo is by D.H. Lawrence. Plumed Serpent and Kangaroo are both by D.H. Lawrence. Ballad of Reading Gaol is by Oscar Wilde. It is not a diary. Oscar Wilde never wrote a diary like that. It's fictional. The Last Testament of Oscar Wilde. Yeah. Thomasina Coverley, a 13-year-old math genius who is based on Lord Byron's daughter Ada Lovelace, is the protagonist of Arcadia, Jumpers, Travesties and Hapgood. Bolo. Are you loving the quiz, guys? In the previous day, I asked you which of the following plays has Lord Byron as a character. So, with that, you can guess this. Thomasina Coverley, a 13-year-old math genius. She is based on Lord Byron's daughter, Ada Lovelace, in Arcadia. Arcadia. Hapgood is about espionage. It is a spy woman. Hapgood. It is not Hapgood. It is Arcadia. Will you remember now? When we learn like this again, same things in a different way, you will remember now. You will. I'm sure of it. I have done this for 20 years, so I know. Okay. Sea and Sardinia by D.H. Lawrence is a dash. Sea and Sardinia by D.H. Lawrence is a dash. Sea and Sardinia by D.H. Lawrence is a travelogue. It's a travelogue. To a Light in Italy, Sea and Sardinia, Mornings in Mexico and Etruscan Places. These are the 4 travelogues by D.H. Lawrence. Will you remember? Now, guys, which of the following is part of socialist theatre? Which of these works is part of socialist theatre? Did you write down the names of D.H. Lawrence travelogues, or do you know already? Socialist theatre bolo. It is Top Girls by Carol Churchill. Top Girls by Carol Churchill is part of socialist theatre. She is here talking about a woman who has become a professional. She has to give up her family. She couldn't bring up her daughter. Marlene is the protagonist. Protagonist is Marlene. And Top Girls is by Carol Churchill. Am I helping you guys, or do you know these already? Then, Stories and Texts for Nothing is a collection of 3 short stories and 13 prose pieces written by Stories and Texts for Nothing. Remember, I told you Michel Foucault quoted from this book in What's an Author? Michel Foucault quoted from this book in What's an Author? Socialist theatre is a theatre that upholds socialist principles of socialism, Marxism, obviously. Got it? It is about, socialist theatre is about working class, same thing as Marxism. Stories and Texts for Nothing is by Samuel Beckett. Correct. Samuel Beckett. It has 3 short stories and 13 prose pieces. And Michel Foucault quoted from this. What does it matter who is speaking? Foucault quoted in What's an Author? Did you understand, guys? Everything clear? What does it matter who is speaking? Yes. The Spirit Level is a poetry collection by the Nobel laureate. Immediately after getting the Nobel Prize, somebody published or wrote this collection of poetry. Who is it? In 1995, somebody got Nobel Prize. And in 1996, he brought out this collection of poetry. So who is it, guys? It is Seamus Heaney. Seamus Heaney got Nobel Prize in 1995. And immediately after that, he published The Spirit Level. Okay. I hope you'll remember. Now we are ready for post-war American literature. Ta-da-da! Ready, guys, for post-war American literature? I am going to. Did we do 20? I will make it 20th century. Everything is there. Tomorrow also we will do 20th century, okay? Yeah. 19. I think I did one mistake, but that's okay. The decades. 1920s is called what, guys? What is the 1920s called in America, guys? The 1920s in America is called what? The Roaring Twenties. The 1920s is called Roaring Twenties. It is the time of the lost generation. It is that. Who are the lost generation writers? Hemingway, Fitzgerald. Then Gertrude Stein was the person who called them lost generation. E. Cummings. Do you remember, guys? Roaring Twenties. This is this is also the Jazz Age. The Jazz Age. And then what happened in the 1930s? 1930s is the time of Great Depression. The Great Depression means stock market crash. The stock market crashed in 1929, leading to big problems. The stock market crashed in 1929. There started inflation. Money lost its value. Dollar lost its value. People lost their jobs. There was a lot of disorientation. There was a lot of unemployment, drug taking. And in the 1930s, there was also the McCarthy, no, not 1930s, 1950s. In the 1930s, there was the Dust Bowl. In which region of America did the Dust Bowl happen? Dust Bowl means what, guys? Dust Bowl means dust storm. It is a storm in Oklahoma region. Dust Bowl is a terrible storm that happened in Oklahoma region. Oklahoma is in the south. Will you remember? And many people had to leave. Who wrote Dust Bowl trilogy? Yes, dear. I provide PDF every day in the Telegram link. Telegram group. Dust Bowl trilogy. John Steinbeck wrote. John Steinbeck wrote Dust Bowl trilogy. The 1940s is called what, guys? The Fighting 40s or Flying 40s, because of the First World War as well as the invention of flying, air travel. The 1940s is called Fighting 40s or Flying 40s. So, in these periods, let us talk about these periods. 1920s. What are the major works? Tell me. What are the major works of the 1920s? We have Hemingway's works and F. Scott Fitzgerald's works. Okay. What are the main novels of Ernest Hemingway, Bolo? Main novels of Ernest Hemingway. The Sun Also Rises is the first, of course. It has the epigraph, "You are all a lost generation." Isn't it? The Sun Also Rises has the epigraph, "You are all a lost generation." And then, other works by Hemingway, Bolo? In the 1920s, there was a lot of money. There was a lot of materialism. Rich people became richer. Yes. A Farewell to Arms, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Old Man and the Sea. And tell me, what are the important short stories of Hemingway? Important short stories of Hemingway, Bolo? Important short stories of Hemingway are The Snows of Kilimanjaro, A Clear, Well-Lit Place. There are also other poems, other novels by Hemingway, like Green Hills of Africa, Across the River and Into the Trees. Haven't you heard? All important works by Hemingway. Who among the Lost Generation writers wrote USA Trilogy? Who among the Lost Generation writers wrote USA Trilogy? It is John Dos Passos. John Dos Passos wrote USA Trilogy. And in which novel by Hemingway do you have Frederick Henry? Lieutenant Frederick Henry. You want me to type each and everything? It will be too much now. Let me see. Hemingway's novels. Lieutenant Frederick Henry is in Farewell to Arms. Correct. Farewell to Arms. Then, If I write too much, it won't be good. So I will write just a little. A farewell to arms. Then Robert Jordan is in. Robert Jordan bolo. Robert Jordan is in For Whom the Bell Tolls. Tell me, in which work by Hemingway do you have a man suffering from gangrene? His leg has to be amputated. His leg has to be amputated. It is in Snows of Kilimanjaro. What is the technique by which Hemingway wrote? What is the technique by which Hemingway wrote? It is called iceberg technique. It is called iceberg technique. Henna? Then, which of the writers presented here wrote Nick Adams' stories? Nick Adams' stories. It was Ernest Hemingway who wrote Nick Adams' stories. Right. Now tell me, what is the major work by F. Scott Fitzgerald? F. Scott Fitzgerald ka major works. All of you know The Great Gatsby. The Great Gatsby is there. He also wrote This Side of Paradise. Then The Beautiful and the Damned. The Beautiful and the Damned is also by F. Scott Fitzgerald. John Dos Passos wrote USA Trilogy. Will you remember, guys? E. Cummings is a poet. Okay. Now, early writers. Tender is the Night. Yes, yes. Tender is the Night also. Very famous. Tender is the Night. Tell me, guys, have you heard of the Black Mountain writers? The Black Mountain writers. It is discussed in this book. But I have been teaching Black Mountain writers for the past 7, 8 years now. Another important writer is Henry Miller. I have forgotten to write Henry Miller. Black Mountain writers and San Francisco Renaissance. They are important early writers of the middle of the 20th century. Sinclair Lewis, Henry Miller, all those people I have not written. I'll just write here, Sinclair Lewis is the first Nobel laureate. And Henry Miller is the author of Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn. You know that at this time there is also Robert Frost. I'm just writing Robert Frost. Who are the major writers of the Depression era, Bolo? Who are the major writers of the Depression era? Bolo, please. They are Arthur Miller, then Tennessee Williams, then William Faulkner, John Steinbeck, all very famous writers, Hannah? All very famous writers. Sinclair Lewis is the author of Babbitt and Arrowsmith. Double T, Hannah? And Arrowsmith. Yeah. Henry Miller, Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn. Yeah. Now, let me ask you a few questions. Tomorrow also I'll ask from all these areas, so don't worry. There will be an amazing quiz tomorrow also. Tell me, who is the author of Mice and Men? I am asking you from these 4 writers. Who is the author of Mice and Men? Of Mice and Men is by John Steinbeck. John Steinbeck has written Dust Bowl trilogy. In Dubious Battle, Of Mice and Men, and The Grapes of Wrath. These are the three plays of Dust Bowl trilogy. Now, Addie Brundon is a character in which novel by William Faulkner? Addie Brundon is a the protagonist of which novel by William Faulkner? Addie Brundon is in As I Lay Dying. As I Lay Dying. Okay. Then tell me, Quentin Compson appears in which two novels of William Faulkner? Quentin Compson appears in which two novels of William Faulkner? Quentin Compson appears in Absalom, Absalom and The Sound and the Fury. Okay? Absalom, Absalom and The Sound and the Fury. What is the fictional plays developed or described by William Faulkner? What fictional plays is the setting of all his novels? All of William Faulkner's novels are set in the fictional plays Yokna Patava. Yokna Patava. Hana? Bas. Now tell me a question. Answer. Who wrote Suddenly Last Summer? Who is the author of Suddenly Last Summer? It is Tennessee Williams. Tennessee Williams wrote Suddenly Last Summer. Tennessee Williams' major plays are, as all of you know, The Glass Menagerie, A Streetcar Named Desire, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, then The Rose Tattoo, Camino Real. I'm sure you know all these titles. The Rose Tattoo, Camino Real. Then, I'm asking you a question. The mentally retarded boy Maury or Benji, who represents a Christ-like figure, is a character in? The mentally retarded Maury or Benji, who represents a Christ-like figure, is a character in? Character in The Sound and the Fury. Correct. The Sound and the Fury. Blanche Du Bois is a character in? Blanche Du Bois. Stanley Kowalski. Stella Kowalski. These are characters in A Streetcar Named Desire. Wonderful. Then, who is the author of The Night of the Iguana, Sweet Bird of Youth? The Night of the Iguana, The Sweet Bird of Youth. It is, of course, Tennessee Williams. It is Tennessee Williams. Which of these writers was arrested by HUAC and tried? Which of these writers was arrested by HUAC and tried? Which of these writers was arrested? It was Arthur Miller. 24 nallathu ezhuthi varanam. Arthur Miller was arrested by HUAC and tried. Will you remember? Very good. Now guys, let me ask you some other questions. During this time, there was another writer. I didn't mention him. Edward Alby. What did Edward Alby do? Edward Alby wrote what kind of works? Absurd plays. Edward Alby wrote absurd plays. You will remember, won't you? Edward Alby's major plays are The Zoo Story and Who is Afraid of Virginia Woolf? The Sandbox, The American Dream. Okay, these are all major plays by Edward Alby. Edward Alby was an absurd playwright. Absurd playwright. Now guys, we have to talk about the Black Mountain writers. The Black Mountain writers were important in the 1940s and 50s. The Black Mountain writers were important in the 1940s and 50s. They were from the place called Black Mountain. Charles Olson, Robert Creeley. Have you heard these names? Charles Olson, Robert Creeley. Then one more writer is there, Robert Duncan. Robert Duncan. These were important writers. The San Francisco Renaissance was also important at the end of the Second World War. Kenneth Rexroth was an important figure. Kenneth Rexroth. Now the Beat generation. As all of you know, the important writers of the Beat generation are Allen Ginsberg, Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, Jack Kerouac, then Neal Cassady. Have you heard of Neal Cassady? William S. Burroughs. Neal Cassady, then William S. Burroughs. Who wrote Howl? Howl is by Allen Ginsberg. Who wrote Naked Lunch? It is by William S. Burroughs. Got everything? For Telegram group, you should WhatsApp me and you will get the Telegram link, guys. Please WhatsApp me for the Telegram link. That's wonderful. Yeah, Gary Snyder, Lucien Carr, all these are Beat generation writers. What about the Jewish American writers? The most important is Saul Bellow, then Bernard Malamud. Saul Bellow, Bernard Malamud, then Philip Roth. Philip Roth. They are very important writers. Now I want to ask you questions. Sal Paradise and Dean Moriarty are characters in Sal Paradise and Dean Moriarty are characters in Jack Kerouac's On the Road. They are characters in Jack Kerouac's On the Road. Who wrote American Pastoral? Who's the author of American Pastoral? American Pastoral is written by Philip Roth. Herzog, tell me the names of the major works by Saul Bellow now. Major works by Saul Bellow. Bolo, Herzog, Humboldt's Gift, then Herzog, Humboldt's Gift, then The Dangling Man, The Adventures of Augie March, okay. Who are the confessional poets? Robert Lovell, who wrote Life Studies. Robert Lovell, Seize the Day, correct, wonderful. Seize the Day. Robert Lovell wrote Life Studies, Mr. Samler's Planet, Henderson, The Rain King, so many are there. We can't say every single one, that's okay. Then Plath, Sylvia Plath, Anne Sexton, Adrian Rich, Robert Lovell, Sylvia Plath, Anne Sexton, Adrian Rich, and John Berryman. These are important confessional poets. Right. The confessional poets, we have Kamala Das here in Jennings. No. Elizabeth Jennings is, she has confessional elements, but she's mostly a movement poet. She's mostly considered a movement poet. Right, guys. I will ask you a lot of questions from these areas tomorrow also. Who among them wrote Holocaust poems? Who among them wrote Holocaust poems? Please tell me. Who among these writers wrote Holocaust poems? When you get the PDF, it will be visible, Rekha Rani. It is not visible because I am sitting there. Tin tin tin. देखो अभी देख रही हो? I have moved it so that you can see. Yeah. So, which is the first published collection of poems by Sylvia Plath? It is Colossus and Other Poems. Colossus and Other Poems. Now tell me, which is the posthumously published collection? Ariel. Which is the only novel by Sylvia Plath? Bell Jar. What is the pseudonym under which she wrote the Bell Jar? It is Victoria Lucas. Victoria Lucas. And tell me, what is the name of the protagonist in the Bell Jar? Protagonist in the Bell Jar. It is Esther Greenwood. Esther Greenwood. Wonderful, wonderful. Now, let me ask you another question. Elie Wiesel. There is another Jewish American writer, Elie Wiesel. Elie Wiesel is the author of which trilogy? He was actually a Holocaust survivor. Elie Wiesel was a Holocaust survivor. He wrote Night Trilogy. About his experience in Holocaust, he wrote Night Trilogy. Day, Dawn and Night. Those are the three works in Night Trilogy. Okay, did you get it, guys? Everything is clear? I hope I am helping you and I hope you have liked the video also. Wonderful. Now, shall I move on a little bit? I'll move on a little bit. 1960s, major developments. What are the major developments in the 1960s? John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Space exploration began. American astronauts landed in the moon. Rachel Carson's Silent Spring inaugurated environmental studies. Civil rights and black resistance movements happened for equality. Vietnam War happened and there was a rise of mass media. Did you get all that, guys? All these are major developments in the 1960s. Then, the major writers of this time. Ready? We have first and foremost, Vladimir Nabokov. All of you know that he is the author of Lolita, then Pale Fire, then Speak Memory. Important works by Vladimir Nabokov. Okay, Lolita. Pale Fire is actually a 999 lined poem, but he calls it a novel. There is an introduction and a commentary on it. Speak Memory is his memoir. Eudora Welty is the author of the famous Optimist's Daughter. Eudora Welty has written Optimist's Daughter. E.L. Doctorow has written works like Ragtime and Billy Bathgate. Ragtime and Billy Bathgate are by E.L. Doctorow. Right? And what about J.D. Salinger? J.D. Salinger is the author of, everybody knows, The Catcher in the Rye. A title taken from Robert Burns. And The Catcher in the Rye has a protagonist, Holden Caulfield. Ken Casey has written a very satirical novel, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Hannah, it is set in a lunatic asylum. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is set in a lunatic asylum. And Harper Lee, To Kill a Mockingbird. and Go Set a Watchman. These are all classics of American literature. Classics of American literature. What is the name of the protagonist in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? McMurphy. McMurphy. What's the name of the protagonist in To Kill a Mockingbird? Scout Jem. And Atticus Finch. Then Boo Radley. Anna Tom Robinson. These are all important characters in To Kill a Mockingbird. Very, very important works. In Lolita, we have, apart from Lolita, Humbert. His car is called what? Melmoth the Wanderer. Did you get all this, guys? Kate Chopin also there. Kate Chopin, who wrote The Awakening. Okay. Now, there are so many more authors we need to talk about. Norman Mailer and Truman Capote. Am I boring you? I hope I'm not. Norman Mailer has written Pulitzer Prize winning novels, The Armies of the Night and The Executioner's Song. The Armies of the Night and Executioner's Song. The Executioner's Song is about an actual executioner. It's about a criminal who's going to be executed called Gary Gilmore. Gary Gilmore, yes. Now tell me, he also is the author of The Naked and the Dead. The Naked and the Dead. Yes. Truman Capote is the author of Truman Capote, In Cold Blood. It's a faction work. They both of them wrote creative non-fiction or faction. Creative non-fiction or faction means what, guys? Deliberately they are mixing fact and fiction together. They are taking actual fact and writing it in the manner of fiction. Did you understand? In Cold Blood and Breakfast at Tiffany's. Breakfast at Tiffany's has the famous character Holly Golightly. Holly Golightly is in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Then we have Kurt Vonnegut, who wrote Slaughterhouse-Five. Slaughterhouse-Five. Then there is Joseph Heller, who wrote Catch-22. Catch-22 is set in an island during the Second World War. So is Slaughterhouse-Five. Slaughterhouse-Five is set in an underground meat locker. You should know the characters a little bit. They will check whether you know these characters. If possible, do a little bit of extra research. Catch-22 has the character Joseph Heller. Sorry. Captain John Yossarian. John Yossarian. John Barth has written many major works. The postmodern essay, The Literature of Exhaustion, is very important. The Literature of Exhaustion. John Updike wrote Rabbit series of novels. Hannah? Rabbit series. And then we have to talk about Don DeLillo and Cormac McCarthy. Rabbit series is not about any rabbit, it's a man's name. Rabbit is Harry Rabbit Angstrom. It is a man's name. This rabbit is a man's name. Did you get it, guys? And then we have Don DeLillo and Cormac McCarthy. Very important writers these days. What are the works of Don DeLillo? Bolo? Don DeLillo is a very important postmodern writer who has written an Ulysses-like novel. A Ulysses-like novel he has written. It is called Cosmopolis. His first novel is Americana. Don DeLillo's first novel is Americana. Then Ratner's Star. Then Libra. Then Mao the Second. Underworld. The Body Artist. Then Cosmopolis. Very important. Cormac McCarthy has written The Road, which you might have seen as a movie. Cormac McCarthy's The Road is a famous movie. He has also written Blood Meridian. Blood Meridian and Border Trilogy. Border Trilogy. Yeah. Please read extra. There are so many books that I have missed out also. I have not mentioned. So please read all that. Now, there is Thomas Pynchon. And Thomas Pynchon's first debut novel is We. Thomas Pynchon's debut novel is We. He has also written what? The Crying of Lot 49. Then Gravity's Rainbow. Bleeding Edge. Crying of Lot 49, Gravity's Rainbow, Bleeding Edge, all by Thomas Pynchon. Entropy, important. It's a short story. Entropy. All right. Now, African American writers. Are you dying to do the quizzes, guys? For half an hour we have been studying. For half an hour we did analysis. And now for half an hour we can do quizzes. Is that a wonderful idea? I hope you like it. Richard Wright, Ralph Ellison. I'll just ask you some questions now so that you will remember everything. Okay. Who is the author of A Raisin in the Sun, which is the story of the Youngers family? Among these writers, who wrote A Raisin in the Sun, the story of the Youngers family? Bolo. It is Lorraine Hansberry. Lorraine Hansberry. Whose autobiography is Black Boy? Whose autobiography is Black Boy? Thank you, guys. Black Boy is the autobiography of Richard Wright. Richard Wright. James Baldwin's Go Tell It on the Mountain is about the influence of Dash on African American lives. Bolo. James Baldwin's Go Tell It on the Mountain is about the influence of Dash on African American lives. It is the influence of the church. Malcolm X's autobiography was partly written by? Malcolm X's autobiography was partly written by? It is Alex Haley. Malcolm X's autobiography partly written by Alex Haley. Now tell me, all God's children need traveling shoes. All God's children need traveling shoes is a book by Maya Angelou. It is by Maya Angelou. Okay, next I want to ask you a question. Which of Toni Morrison's works is set in the 1920s? Which of Toni Morrison's works is set in the 1920s? In Harlem. It is Jazz. Jazz by Toni Morrison is set in the 1920s in Harlem. Guys, did you like the video? I hope you liked it. There is a book called The Black Book, which is about the history of African American people. The history of African American people is told in the book called The Black Book. Who is the author? It is Toni Morrison. Who is the author of The Autobiography of My Mother? The Autobiography of My Mother. It is Jamaica Kincaid. Jamaica Kincaid. And who is the author of Dutchman? Dutchman is a play by Amiri Baraka. Dutchman is a play by Amiri Baraka. Okay. Now, ready for questions, guys? Ta-da-da! Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who ran the City Lights bookstore, is associated with dash. Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who ran the City Lights bookstore. Where is the City Lights bookstore? In San Francisco. City Lights bookstore is in San Francisco, and he is associated with beat writers. That's right. Many works of the beat writers were published by Lawrence Ferlinghetti. I hope you'll remember. Okay, I have highlighted the major points. Beat writers. Okay, guys, next. Which of the following is the theme of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Which of the following is the theme of Who is Afraid of Virginia Woolf? I will tell you the story of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. George and Martha are a couple, and they are getting two guests, Nick and Honey. And in the play, it turns out that George and Martha are constantly talking about their son, and they are also talking about a son who killed his parents. At the end, it turns out that they don't have a son; they are just pretending. So now, tell me, what is the story about? What is the theme about? Many of you said the correct answer. It is illusion and reality. George and Martha, Nick and Honey. And it is about illusion and reality. That's right. Very good. Other works, it is by Edward Albee, as I told you. Edward Albee has also written The Zoo Story, or Peter and Jerry, The Sandbox, The American Dream, etc. Yeah. Which of the following is the first novel by Alice Walker? Alice Walker's first novel. The first novel by Alice Walker. Yeah, George and Martha sing the song Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf also. Yes, guys. The first, I've actually given in the correct order. This is the first novel. The Third Life of Grange Copeland. He's a freed slave. Will you remember? The Third Life of Grange Copeland is a freed slave. All right. Now, please read extra about all these works. They are all very important. Which of these novels has a narrator who is chair in the Department of Hitler Studies? A narrator who is chair in the Department of Hitler Studies. It is White Noise by Don DeLillo. White Noise is by Don DeLillo. V is by Thomas Pynchon. The Saltweed Factor is by? Who wrote The Saltweed Factor? The Saltweed Factor is about it's about a poet called Ebenezer Cook. The Saltweed Factor presents a poet called Ebenezer Cook. Did you know that? Saltweed Factor is by John Barth. John Barth. Slaughterhouse-Five is by Kurt Vonnegut. V is by, it is the debut novel of Thomas Pynchon. Thomas Pynchon. All right. Now tell me, who of the following was a lepidopterist and chess player? Lepidopterist means one who studies insects. Who of the following was a lepidopterist and chess player? It is Vladimir Nabokov. Did you know Vladimir Nabokov was a lepidopterist and chess player? All right. Who in the book Sir Fiction, Fiction Now and Tomorrow, described his own self-reflexive anti-narratives as Sir Fiction? Bolo? I'm typing fast so as not to waste your time. Bolo? Sir Fiction, Fiction Now and Tomorrow. It is by Raymond Federman. Raymond Federman. Okay? Wrote the book Sir Fiction. Saul Bellows, the Dangling Man, is set in the place where many of his novels are set. This is the trick, guys. Many of Saul Bellows' novels are set in Chicago. Saul Bellows' novels are set in either Chicago or New York. Will you remember Saul Bellows' novel Dangling Man, also set in Chicago? The Adventures of Augie March, set in Chicago again. The 42nd Parallel, 1919, and Big Money. These are novels by Dash, the style of which influenced the faction writers. Ayyo, wrong options. Wrong options. I will just write the answer. Options galat. The answer is John Dos Passos. Sorry guys, I forgot to correct the options. John Dos Passos. This is his USA trilogy. Remember, this is his USA trilogy. The three novels of USA trilogy are 42nd Parallel, 1919, and Big Money. Three Soldiers, a novel by John Dos Passos, is set against the backdrop of Three Soldiers, a novel by John Dos Passos, is set against the backdrop of the First World War. The First World War. Okay? Are you getting me, guys? Now, In Our Time is a collection of short stories by In Our Time is a collection of short stories. By whom? By Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway. The autobiography of Alice B. Toklas is a quasi-memoir on her life partner by... Who wrote the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas? कोई किसी और की autobiography नहीं लिखती ना. It is Gertrude Stein. Gertrude Stein wrote the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas. They were lesbian partners. The Revere's A Reminiscence. Have you heard? The Revere's A Reminiscence. It is the last novel by which American writer? Who wrote this novel as his last novel? It is William Faulkner. William Faulkner. Who among the following was hailed as the giant of American letters? You are tempted to say Mark Twain or Walt Whitman or William Faulkner, but it is John Steinbeck. John Steinbeck. Amory Blaine. Have you heard of Amory Blaine? Very important character. The protagonist of which work? Amory Blaine is a student at Princeton University. Amory Blaine is in This Side of Paradise. Today itself, you should please look up these works. Who's the author of This Side of Paradise, Bolo guys? We already talked about it. Who's the author of This Side of Paradise? We just mentioned it already. It is F. Scott Fitzgerald. F. Scott Fitzgerald. It is subtitled Fragments of an Unfinished Biography. But that is a story based on, movie based on it. This Side of Paradise is the debut novel of F. Scott Fitzgerald. Remember that. First novel it is. This Side of Paradise is the debut novel of F. Scott Fitzgerald. Is that awesome, guys? Tell me. Today, Alfieri, Bolo. Alfieri is the narrator of which play by Arthur Miller? Arthur Miller has written so many plays. In which play of Arthur Miller? It is, you can know by elimination. It is not All My Sons. All My Sons has the protagonists Joe Keller and Steve Deaver. The Crucible is about John Proctor. It should be either Misfits or A View from the Bridge. It is A View from the Bridge. A View from the Bridge. Will you please read today itself? Laura in the Glass Menagerie is believed to be modeled on Tennessee Williams's Dash. Sister, wife, ex-girlfriend. It is Laura is modeled on his sister Rose. His sister Rose also had mental problems and she had to undergo lobotomy. Tennessee Williams never forgave himself for that. He was not able to do anything for his sister. Tennessee Williams's sister Rose is the model for Laura. Right, guys. Many of you said it right. Mrs. Violet Venable finds out that his son is a homosexual. And his son goes with his cousin Catherine and gets killed. And now the mother, Mrs. Venable, wants to do lobotomy on Catherine so that she will never let anybody know that Mrs. Venable's son was homosexual. This is the story of Suddenly Last Summer. Mrs. Venable is a character in Suddenly Last Summer. She is trying to get lobotomy done on her niece, Catherine. Okay? Two Lovers and a Beachcomber by the Real Sea is a poem. Do you know who wrote this poem? Two Lovers and a Beachcomber by the Real Sea. It is Sylvia Plath. Sylvia Plath. You can read about it today. Now, guys, did you like the discussion today? Now, Mary sat musing at the lamp flame on the table is the opening line of which poem by Robert Frost? You should know it is not Birches, it is not Mending Wall. Hannah? It is The Death of the Hired Man. Please read it. The Death of the Hired Man. Mary sat musing at the lamp flame on the table. These are all prescribed in various universities. So please, guys, read it. I'm trying to give you a map of what you should read, okay? Right. Which poem was recited by Maya Angelou in the inauguration ceremony of Bill Clinton? That is very famous. Which poem by Maya Angelou was recited at the inauguration ceremony of Bill Clinton? It is On the Pulse of the Morning. On the Pulse of the Morning is the poem by Maya Angelou, recited at the inaugural ceremony of President Bill Clinton. Did you like the questions today? I'm so glad that even though it is Sunday, you're all attending this session live. Thank you so much for your trust. I'm sure a lot of questions will come from our practice tests and videos in the exam. I'm sure you will get a lot of help in the exam because you're attending these sessions. I have come to the end of today's questions because it is a Sunday. I did not want to overdo it. We will do the same period tomorrow so that you will get to revise everything. Thank you guys. I'm so glad that I'm able to be of help. Please like the video and share with your friends. Okay. Thank you. Good night and meet you tomorrow. Bye-bye.